Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plans. Today's video is going to be a reading recap for June 2025. It was quite an interesting reading month for me. If you're interested in seeing what books I read last month, please stick around. As I said in my introduction, today's video is going to be a reading recap for June 2025. June was a challenging reading month for me, and I'm actually filming this video about a week into July, and July is proving to be a very challenging reading month as well. I am in a major book slump, like really slumping hard. My desire to read has completely gone. I have read some good books, some books that I really enjoyed, but they haven't taken me out of my slump, which has been very frustrating. I read every single day. That's something that I always make sure to do. It's something that I really like to do, and I've been in such a slump since the middle of June that there were multiple days in June that I did not read at all. So my reading every day streak, which had been going on probably for over 3 years, is no more, unfortunately. I am going to be referencing my Archer and Olive reading journal. This is where I keep track of all of the books that I read every month. I normally would go through my stats, but I actually have not even figured out my stats for the month of June yet. So we're just going to dive right into the books that I read in June. The first book that I read in the month of June was actually an advanced reading copy that I was fortunate enough to receive. I believe I also had the advanced listening copy for this one, and that book is So Happy Together. I think I originally rated this at a 4, and I've actually since rated it down to a 3.5. I liked it. I thought it was really interesting. I thought the commentary that it gave on the way that like social media and dating apps kind of factors into the way that we actually date was really cool. And I ended up settling on a 3.5 out of 5 stars for this read. The next book that I read in the month of June was one that was on my TBR. I didn't actually get to every book on my June TBR. I think I read 4 of the 6, and this was one of them. And it was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I think that maybe my expectations were really high because I know that so many people love this book, and it didn't quite live up to those expectations for me. I did like it. I did think it was a good book. I liked the romance, but I just wasn't as blown away by it as I thought I was going to be. It's actually funny because this book talks a lot about food, and it actually mentions in this book that a food cart can get a Michelin star. And I actually just read a couple weeks ago that there was a food cart that did actually get a Michelin star recently. So it's just funny that that happened very soon after I ended up reading this book. I ended up settling on a 4 out of 5 stars for this one. The next book that I read was also on my TBR for the month of June, and that was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This was my 3rd time attempting to read this book. I've tried twice in the past and have not been able to get beyond the first few chapters. And I will say that I fortunately did make my way all the way through this book. 3rd time was the charm. It was definitely a sweet story. I liked the relationships between the siblings in this book. There were obviously aspects of it that were a bit challenging to read given that this takes place in the 1800s. We're now in the 2020s. Ideas are very different now. Women's roles are very different now. And so I kind of had to take it for what it was, but I did enjoy it. I ended up rating it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I have not watched the movie version of this yet, any of them, but I do want to do that at some point. My next read was also on my June 2025 TBR, and it was also an advanced listening copy as well as an advanced reading copy that I received, and that is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Beth Durst. I was really looking forward to reading this. This is the same author that wrote The Spell Shop, and I really liked that book. This one was very fun. I think I had a little bit of a harder time getting into this one initially, probably because I was starting to fizzle into a slump. But once I got into the story, I thought it was a lot of fun. It involves an enchanted greenhouse. It involves a lot of different plants, which is really, really fun. We have main characters that are kind of going through some things, and it was really interesting to see how their dynamic was with each other given their differing views on family or their personal challenges that they have with family. But I did really enjoy this. I think I liked the spell shop a little bit more, but I did rate this a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm pretty positive I rated that a 4 out of 5 stars as well. Very fun, definitely recommend. Oh, and thank you to Bramble so much for the advanced reading copy and the advanced listening copy. The next book that I read was also on my TBR. This is actually the last book on my TBR that I got to in the month of June, and that is Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this was really interesting. I definitely saw the twist aspect coming, but I still thought it was really fun for the story and for the dynamics between our two main characters. I will say that I felt like the ending got a little bit confusing, a little bit convoluted, wasn't as solid as I would have liked it to be for this book. So I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars, but still very much enjoyed it and definitely want to continue on with the series. If you're looking for a unique, different, interesting fantasy, romantasy kind of story, definitely give this a read. It is one of the more unique concepts that I've read about. A little bit of it reminded me of Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, but still very different from that. The next book that I read in the month of June was not on my TBR. I was feeling slumpy at this point, and I was very much wanting to read a romance because when I'm feeling like I'm getting into a slump, a romance is the best way to try to get me out of that. And this book ended up being so good. It's actually my favorite book that I read in the month of June, and that is Deep End by Hazelwood. I've definitely heard different things about this because this is a bit different from her first few books that were feminist romances, very rom-com-y. This one is definitely a bit steamier than those. There's steam throughout. Our main characters are building a relationship based on their physical connection. I really enjoyed the way that the relationship building was done in this story, even though it was initially more physical. I think that Hazelwood did a really great job at bringing in that emotional connection and attachment and demonstrating that our characters were both feeling that way, even though they were in a very odd, kind of funky place with the characters around them. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really, really liked it, and quite honestly debated giving it 5 stars. But after I read this, I still felt really slumpy, which was unfortunate. So I decided that I needed to pick up another romance, and this one's been sitting on my shelves since it was released, but I knew that I wanted to read it during the summer months because of the cover, and so I ended up picking up The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I do think it was the perfect thing to pick up at the time that I picked it up. This was such a quick read. I think I read this in a day, and as I was reading it, I did genuinely feel like I was out of my slump. I did enjoy this story. I liked the dynamic between our two main characters. I thought that the familial drama aspect of the story was wildly entertaining. The ending to this, though, is where it kind of lost me a little bit. I didn't love the ending, and so I ended up settling on a 4 out of 5 stars for this. Still a really fun read. After reading The Paradise Problem, I was eager to pick up something different. I felt like I was out of my slump, and we were getting close to the end of the month, and so I wanted to make sure that I was reading something that would be considered literary fiction, because I do have a 2025 reading challenge that is to read one literary fiction book every month. And so I ended up picking up something that was from the ARC section of my bookshelves, and that is Homemade Love by J. California Cooper. Now, this is not an ARC, it's a review copy. This book, I think, originally came out in the 1980s, but I was sent this by St. Martin's Griffin. So thank you so much to them for sending this to me. This is actually a collection of short stories, and I ended up making it through 3 of the short stories, and then I decided that it just wasn't the right book at the right time, and I ended up DNFing it. I'm not sure that I'll go back to it. I haven't gotten rid of it yet. I'm not going to get rid of it anytime soon. I'm going to leave it be on my shelves, but it ended up being a DNF. And that's my first DNF of the year, actually. After reading or attempting to read Homemade Love, I decided I needed to go back to the romances. And fortunately, I had purchased this book with a Barnes & Noble gift card that I had been saving. And that is Problematic Summer Romance by Allie Hazelwood. Deep End went so well that I was like, let me just pick up another Allie Hazelwood. Hopefully it'll hit just like Deep End did. And I did really enjoy this book. I did. But of Allie Hazelwood's novels, not including her short stories, this is probably my least favorite one. And that's just because I don't like the age gap romance. I have a really hard time with age gap romances. They just don't jive with me, especially when the younger character is pretty darn young, and the female main character in this story is 23-ish, I think. I thought the setting was described beautifully by Allie Hazelwood in this book. I liked our surrounding characters. I liked that this was all centered around a wedding, and I did appreciate the romance and that it was really a relationship, a long-term, non-romantic relationship that was leading into a relationship, but it just wasn't the book for me, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. After reading Problematic Summer Romance, I once again wanted to try to pick up a literary fiction book for my literary fiction challenge, and so I ended up just Googling popular literary fiction books, and I was looking for something that was a little bit shorter, and I ended up settling on a book called Rejection by Tony Tulathimutte. And I'm probably saying that last name completely wrong. I don't even know how to describe this book. I can only say that it wasn't for me. I did make it about 60% of the way through, and before reading this, I don't know that I would have said I would have DNF'd a book that I had made it 60% through. If I've gotten that far, I feel like in the past I would have just stuck with it and finished it, but I could not do that for this book. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, and it ended up being my second DNF of the month and my second DNF of the year. After that last read, I had a little bit of time to pick up something else in the month of June, and I decided to pick up a short story, and the book that I chose was Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire, which is one of the books in the Wayward Children series. I have really enjoyed reading this series this year. I think this is book 5, and I did enjoy this one. Some of the books are centered around the same couple of characters or have parts that are in the same place, and this one brings us back to Jack and Jill and the Moors, and those are the ones that I tend to really enjoy and get very invested in, and I did like this one. This was super unique and interesting. It was a very solid read. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. And that is it for the books that I've read in the month of June 2025. I did enjoy my last read of the month, but going into July, I was still feeling very slumpy, and I don't think I've actually read any books in the month of July yet, even though we are a week in. I have been slowly making my way through my current read, and it's going very slow. I think I'm like 9 chapters in, and I've been reading it since July 1st. So we will see what happens throughout the rest of the month. If I had to pick a top 3 for the month of June, my number 3 book would be The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. My number 2 book would be Phantasma by Kaylie Green. And my favorite book that I read in the month of June was definitely Deep End by Allie Hazelwood. If you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video, please do not hesitate to leave some spoiler-free thoughts down below. I love chatting with people about books. And as always, everyone, please be safe. Bye-bye.